In 23.2, Tableau have enhanced their support for images, including support for GIFs and also SVGs. I'll talk so much more about SVGs because I think they're underused in this space. As ever, let's get stuck in, and I'll also show you this really nice trick that I think could be used a lot more. Putting GIFs as sheets inside of a dashboard to add flair to your dashboard. Let's get stuck in. So as ever, the video is timestamped, so you can jump ahead to see the innovation straight away. But I'm going to start off in Tableau Public. We're going to go ahead and create a web authoring session. Tableau Public is free, so you can follow along and just get involved. I'm already logged in, so as soon as I hit that, I get the option to connect to my data. On my desktop, I have this image roll file. Now you can see the images that I've already sort of loaded up. I loaded this up to a service called Cloudinary. It's an image hosting service. I've got a really nice sort of thing planned with them where I'm going to be talking about image support specifically in analytics tools, so look out for that. But here you can see the images I have: SVGs, WEBPs, GIFs. There's a whole range of images, and all I've done is I've uploaded them to Cloudinary. I've made a video about that as well, link in the description. And all I'm going to do is open this file up. So the CSV file just has the URLs to the images themselves over in Cloudinary. You'll see this in a second. We'll upload this file in, and there's no real data source here, but I'll try and simulate a sort of scenario where we can pretend there's a data source and you can kind of see what I'm going for. And as you can see, it loads up the images. You can actually see our data's here. And if we preview this, there's a really annoying thing with WebEdit. It opens everything in a new tab. I really hate that sort of part of the experience. But there you go, there's our links, and you can see it's all coming from a Cloudinary bucket. Think of it like an S3 bucket essentially, and it's got everything in there. And yeah, this is what we're going to be working with. So let's go ahead, switch back to the tabs that we need, and we can go ahead and click OK and go ahead and start actually building something with this chart. So we'll go ahead and click sheet 1. And you'll see that it starts to take an extract. And so this will take a little bit of time as a CSV. Hopefully I can fill the air while it's doing this. 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. Come on, there's as many rows as that. Should be faster, Tableau. Okay, let's get into this. Now, you can see here, if I just bring in, let's call this the public ID. The public ID is the name of the image. So you can see these are our different image names, and they're all there. And if we go ahead and bring in the secure URL, you can see these are all the images, and it's pretty clear to see that there's a whole range of image types, and these are actually all supported in this latest release of Tableau. But as ever, there's some limitations. They have to fit within a certain size frame. This was actually doubled to 200 kilobytes from 100 kilobytes. So that's something new and nice. And there's also been some small formatting. So the images will naturally center themselves to the frame that they're in. And you're probably thinking, what do we mean by frame? Well, if I limit this down just to the AWS icons that I've got here, you can see I've already pre-grouped them. You can see that I get this sort of much smaller list of items. And essentially, to enable image roles, you have to right-click the URL, go down to image role and select a URL. There's a hint that more image types will come later on, but you can see that it actually replaced the URL with the images. Now, there's a couple of things special about this specific images, and if I just scale this down, you can see that it naturally centers them. So everything is nicely centered. If I was to give it too much vertical space, they'd naturally try and fill the height. So the images behave in what I would think is still a slightly weird way, because they try and fill the height or the width. One of them always gets filled. And sometimes you want padding, but I'll show you how I solve that here in Cloudinary actually. And Cloudinary serves the URLs to us, and we're actually able to edit the URL to adjust the image. That's sort of the power of using Cloudinary to do all of this. But you can see these are nicely loaded and they're perfect. And these are SVGs. Now, my point about SVGs is that not many people know that they're actually called a vector image. If you take a PNG, an image file like a JPEG, or anything that's essentially a rasterized image, the way they store images is they essentially say, look, this dot has this color, and it works its way across a whole entire grid to form an image. And the way they compress the image is they take all that information and they kind of simplify it in a way that means whatever you're working with, the file is always going to remember the rough sort of correct position of certain colors. And you might lose some detail, but frankly, your eyes don't notice. And that's why you can get some really large images into small file sizes. SVGs work a completely different way. Let me just show you what I mean by that. If I go ahead and open one of these SVGs, you can see this is my folder. If I open one of these SVGs, and I'm going to open it in a coding tool like Visual Studio Code, what you'll see is that the image is not defined by dots. It's not defined by something you would expect to see in an image like pixels and coordinates. It's defined by essentially a formula. And it's very similar to spatial mapping in Tableau. So for example, if you see this SVG, you can see it's got a height, it's got a box, and then it's got a width, and that's roughly telling you the proportions of what's going on. And then what starts to happen is you basically get like a standardized sort of format telling you this is the SVG, and then you have what's called a path. And the path is essentially drawing the coordinates of the object that we have in mind. Then there's a fill color. This fill color actually fills the color of the specific shape. So we opened up the AWS Lambda image. And if I go back to my file explorer and we just open this with, let's say, preview. Can I open this with preview? It's not going to let me open this up with preview. If I double click it, let's see what applications opens it. SVGs typically open in Illustrator on my computer because it's a vector image. If it pops up on screen, we'll be able to see it, but it's decided to pop up off screen. And here it is. And you can see the power of this SVG image. If I just double click this and let's just zoom out of this, let's just move across. Let's just do this. There we go. You can see it's just basically one path going all the way around. And once it's drawn that path, it has one color. So that's all you get in this particular logo. One path, one color, super simple. And the thing you maybe noticed, or you didn't notice, is that as I zoom in and out, it's infinitely sharp. So that's the power of an SVG. They're really, really sharp, and all company logos now typically get made in this format. Logos have been making these formats for a long time in vector formats. PDFs are vector formats, strictly speaking, if you only put images and certain types of graphics into them. So using these is super powerful. Look at this. This Lambda logo is 1 kilobyte. In fact, if you look at all the SVGs, the biggest size is 1 kilobyte. The smallest size is 508 bytes. We're talking trivial amounts of data here. They're just so small, and they don't have to be just simple. You can open up something as complex as this DynamoDB logo. Let's just zoom out. You can see this one is a little bit more complex. Yes, it looks different, but again, it's really, really small. And what I did is I went and got the Tableau and Salesforce logo in SVG format. Here you go. Salesforce logo is a bit more complex. It's 9 kilobytes. I'll open this here in Illustrator, and you'll see that this is a Salesforce logo. I downloaded it from a website that kind of converts these for us. And you're probably thinking, well, what does this look like in a formula? So let's go ahead. Let's go back and open this in VS Code. And as soon as we're in there, you'll see, let's word wrap this. And so you can see, okay, this is a little bit more complicated. But the same sort of principle applies. You've got different paths. So you've got this path here, and you've got another path here, and they have slightly different colors. So this path fill here is the white color. This is the actual text for Salesforce. And this cloud path here, this one here at the top, is actually the blue cloud that goes all the way around the image. And there's a few other images here. There's another fill there, and so on and so forth. But you get the idea. This is a bunch of numbers. Normal images, PNGs, JPEGs, they're actual pieces of information. So they take a lot more sort of storage to store that information. So what's my point? Why am I laboring on about SVGs? It's because we should all be using SVGs where possible. Images only need to be used where you're using an actual photo or graphic that can only be taken in the form of an image. You can even get tools today that will take an image and convert them into an SVG just to get the size down. But strictly speaking, if you're working with logos, you're working with icons, let me just tell you now, SVGs all the way. And SVGs are supported in Tableau Desktop. You don't have to just have them coming through image roles. You can just go ahead and bring in an SVG. If I go to a dashboard here, for example, let's see how good this is. Let's bring in an image type here. We'll go ahead and choose an image. We'll go in here. Let's bring the Salesforce logo. Let's bring that in here. And you'll see that it loads it up. Let's fit and center the image, apply. And voila, look at that. Nice and crisp. Everyone should be using these. If we go ahead and go to floating and look at this, as I change the size of it, it stays sharp every single time. And it's tiny. It's the tiniest file. This is not going to bloat your workbook. This is going to make your workbook performant. It will always be sharp. As small as I make this, if I even dare make this, let's go make it tiny. Look at that, it's still sharp. This is the power of SVGs. So I am laboring this point really hard because this is super important to understand. Please, everyone, let's start using SVGs. Okay, now that I've done that, there's a couple of other things to sort of bear in mind with this release. Other image types are supported. So what I did is in my little data set, I went and got a couple of other types. So let's go ahead and take GIFs and WEBP and hit apply. And I'm not expecting all of these to load because I think they will have issues, but you can see they've actually all loaded absolutely fine. And this is super nice. Now, this image here and this image here have transparent backgrounds. The reason that's super cool is because I think you can add animated elements to your dashboard. Look at this. These images have just come through and they immediately look beautiful. And they're just really, really nice to work with. You can see I've got some WebP images. Now, WebP images are a compressed format that I think Google have pioneered to get really large images down to a really scalable size. So I don't know how these got through the sort of size restriction, because if I go show you these images, they're actually quite big. So you can see here, that's definitely over, 200 kilobytes. You can see that that image is actually specifically this one here. So what I still don't quite understand is, even though Tableau have a limit, it seems like you can sometimes go over that limit and you don't get penalized. What it might be though, and here's something to bear in mind, what it might be is that because I'm using Cloudinary itself is potentially rendering these images in a more performant way. For example, if I look at this GIF and I scroll down, you can see that Cloudinary might actually be looking at the parameters of the page and figuring out that, look, this is the rough size I need. And so it's just loading what's needed for that frame rather than trying to go and load the actual original image. That's the only thing I can think of to explain that quirk. But I'll be asking Tableau that question and we'll try and figure things out. And so this is really, really nice. You can make this super interesting. For example, if I was to do this, let's go ahead and, you could do something nasty like, it's not going to let me do this. I keep on thinking of ideas and then I try and do them and I'm like, oh God, I can't be bothered with all the hacks required. I've just made a video about hacks, so go check that out. But if I go ahead, let's go ahead and let's not show this header. Let's just keep this here. Let's keep just this item here. So you can see we've got this nice item. We'll go ahead and hide labels. I'm just going to give you a flavor of what I'm thinking. Go to a dashboard. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and I'm just going to add a, I cannot be bothered. Actually, I can be bothered to do this. I'm not going to lose this battle here. I'm going to put a container and I'm going to format it. Let's go ahead to layout and we're going to format this container to be black. Let's go ahead and do that. Boom. Perfect. Okay. So you're probably wondering, hey, what is the point in this? Well, look, using this new image support, what you can do, just go ahead and make this floating. Let's go here we go. Here we go. I thought this might happen. I wanted to make this sheet transparent, but I know in desktop this is possible, but I'm not sure in, here we go. Background none. It's not going to let me do it. It's not going to let me do it here. There is a way to make a sheet transparent, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it here. What I was hoping to do was to do something slightly different. So let's do this. Let's edit this alias. I'll grab the link and we'll copy this. So hit OK. And then I will just show you what I was trying to achieve and you guys can figure out actually how to do it. So let's go ahead, let's go bring a floating image. Okay. You see it just gives us the box. We'll go ahead and link to the image. We'll just use the same image we were using before. Click apply, hit OK. There you go. And now look at that, okay? What I was trying to do was to put this image as part of a sheet. And the reason that's important is because putting a static image like this is no use. But if this is a sheet, then what you can do is you can have different sheets activate different animated elements for your dashboard. So this could be a dashboard about Coke. You can see I've just gone onto Giphy and I've found this nice GIF that Coke have put up on their website to use in certain brand assets to use in the GIF app. And I've put it in the bottom right hand corner as an asset, a graphical asset, and it brings life to the dashboard. Maybe you're doing a dashboard about Christmas. Maybe you're doing a themed dashboard. And it might just help to have a little bit of flourish on the dashboard, bring it to life, do something different. I think this is a really nice touch. So this is just a taste of what's possible, I think, with images. I've not really seen people take images to the next level. I think too many people are still using the basic stuff. And you're probably saying, hey, Tim, why didn't you show us what you're supposed to do? I'll get to it at some point. I think there's just so much more you could be doing with images, especially if you use a cloud service to support images. So I'm working with Cloudinary. We're going to make some content first on how to use Cloudinary a little bit better and so on and so forth. And then I have a nice idea of a themed dashboard where we're going to take images to the next level. We're going to use them for everything. I know it'll involve some hacks, but nevertheless, stay tuned to find out more. But anyway, that's a really long video on this particular topic. It's really quite a simple feature. Images now support different image types, but I think there's so much more people could be doing with images, specifically SVGs and GIFs as sheet elements that are interactive and changeable on the dashboard. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.